So our program was motivated by the tremendous growth of the UX profession in recent years. This is just one data point from CNN Money, and we can see the rise of UX designer as one of the top best jobs in the United States. At the same time, we know that a lot of UX designers in practice today have little to no formal education in HCI. And they try to meet that need with maybe professional certificates or peer teaching in avenues such as General Assembly. And we really thought we could meet that need a little bit better. As you might know, in the United States, HCI education is primarily at the graduate level, but we don't have a lot of undergraduate programs. We've been happy to see a few emerge over recent years, most of them at art and design institutions. And as far as we know, we are one of the first undergraduate UX design programs at a major research-intensive university. So the work that we build on is previous work in HCI education and guidelines for building curricula. However, here we present a specific incarnation of some of these principles. And before I dive deeper into the structure of the program, I'd like to introduce you to its foundational metaphor, and that is one of integration, of pulling strands together. So for example, we do not separate courses by topic. We do not have students learn research in one course, prototyping in another one, and maybe graphic design in yet a third one, and expect them to somehow magically pull it all together. We integrate all of these topics and help students think about them in parallel rather than sequentially. So we have identified 6 strands of competencies that are integrated not only across the curriculum and in the courses that we require outside the major, but they're also integrated in each one of the studios that we teach. So the strands are visual and interaction representation, research methods, global consciousness, which we define as the ability to work across cultures and time zones, design philosophy, technical skills, teamwork, and leadership. And also integrated across our curriculum are these 6 foundational principles. And as I dive into the structure of the program, you'll begin to see how these permeate everything we do. So our program is structured around 2 types of studios, learning studios and experience studios. And we like to think of those as pairs going together. Students begin taking one of these pairs their second semester freshman year and continue through their junior years for a total of 2.5 years of these kinds of experiences. During their 4th year, their senior year, they participate in a departmental-wide capstone course that is 2 semesters or 1 year long. I'll be explaining in a bit more detail each one of the studios, but before I do so, I'd like to distinguish between them. The learning studios are cohort specific. They are guided by a set of pretty tight learning objectives, and students work mostly in teams on projects to meet those learning objectives. The experience studios, on the other hand, are managed chaos. We have cross-cohort teams that work together. Students of various levels work together on external industry clients that bring their design problems to us. So let me get a little bit into the first type, into the learning studios. The type of project work that students do is pretty typical of design activities. However, what's interesting about it is that these projects advance in complexity not only from course to course, but also within the same course. We use a spiral metaphor to describe how they deepen and they gain more sophistication in their methods, techniques, approaches, and thinking as they go through several projects. Typical studio activities include projects. As I mentioned, they increase in length and complexity. Peer critique, and this is where we have our senior students visit classes and help the younger ones out. Individual reflection on their work and their identity as designers, as well as collecting and documenting work for individual portfolios. So our 5 learning studios, we have 5 levels of them. They begin with pencil and paper and progress through high fidelity screen, omni-channel, and then UX strategy. The 5th one is an individualized learning experience where students can specialize, or they can replace that with an internship. The experience studios, as I mentioned, they enroll students of various levels who work together on the same team. The learning objectives are loosely structured around project management and professional communication. And as you know, you can't really simulate that in a classroom unless you actually have real clients to communicate professionally with. And so as you can see here, each student is evaluated differently depending on their level in the class. And so freshmen are treated more like interns, sophomores like your regular employee who's held accountable for work, and junior students are in charge of the teams of project management and mentorship. So this fall, we will be starting the 3rd year of our program. We have several evaluation structures set in place. In this note, we present only some initial evaluation. And here I bring you a quote that captures a student reaction about their experience in the program, how the studio experience really shocked me. I have never been in a course that was so tasking yet so enjoyable. It was kind of amazing how excited I was about the content that I was learning, the work I was getting to do. The excitement really made the course easier to enjoy, increased my dedication. And so as I open it up for questions, we would be very happy to hear your questions, feedback, and comments about this new program that we just created. I can. I'm not sure if the recording is, are we?
Hi, Heather Lifford. Thank you very much for this. Looks very interesting. I had a question about, it looks like you are leading students in through cohorts and that they need to start freshman year and go through junior, senior year. How do you deal with students who in their sophomore or junior year decide that this might be an interesting major to them and that this model seems to be very much built around this progression?
Yes, so we accommodate that to a certain extent. We can accommodate sophomores starting maybe their second year, and they're able to complete the program on time. However, with juniors, it is a little bit more difficult to go through the entire coursework and still graduate on time. And this is one of the issues that we've been struggling with. We've tried to set up some mechanisms in place. Also, the courses are not very tightly sequenced. They look more tightly sequenced here, but they could be switched around a little bit in practice. However, of course, the later the students decide to change majors, it might influence their graduation date.
Hi, thank you so much for your work. This is amazing. My name is Andrea Pierre. I work for UserZoom. Having been a prior hiring manager and working with a lot of companies who are hiring, I think one of the most difficult challenges is learning more of the cultural savviness and how to navigate the politics within an organization in order to grow UX within that org. I'm curious in your experience labs if you try to tackle that beast or you kind of write it off as life of hard knocks. You just got to learn that one puppy. So here you go. Or what your thought is on there.
So we actually go out of our way to create realistic, real-world, and challenging experiences for our students. Of course, their experience is going to depend upon the clients that they get. Some clients are much more welcoming of UX design philosophy, and others are not. We, however, try to expose the students to a wide variety of clients. If you count over the course of 3.5 years, they would have worked with, basically they get 3.5 years of real work experience with industry clients, and so chances are that they will be exposed to a lot of those delicate situations that we coach them through professional communication. And the students are already becoming activists and evangelists for UX design, and so we sort of see that happening. However, yeah, I think that's as much as I can tell you right now.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hi. So you mentioned that this is a relatively new program, right? So I have kind of a two-part question. One is, what were the growing pains of you have juniors having to be in courses, but you don't have any incoming class yet because you're new, things like that. How do you set that up so that in the first few years it's still working the way you want it to? The second thing is, I feel like Purdue in general is pretty technical, so I'm curious was there any culture shift that students had to go through when they were doing these, I think you said managed chaos? Like at what point did it click for them that, yeah, like this is helping me learn what I need to learn as opposed to like, I have just no idea what's going on. Right?
Yeah,
So-
okay. Well, so your first question is a very pertinent one because our first semester, we needed juniors on those teams to mentor the younger ones, and we didn't have any. Well, now we had other majors. We have a web development major in computer graphics, and we had one other UX design course that has been going on for, I don't know, many years before that. And so we got students who had taken that UX design course, who maybe had gotten the UX internships before, and they became sort of the mentors, so to speak. But the first couple of years were a little bit rough because they were also taking the freshman courses along with the freshmen, and so we weren't able to implement the entire student experience as we had designed it until just about this past semester when we had our, true freshmen and true juniors. In the second, to answer your second point, so we're in the Department of Computer Graphics Technology, and I don't think it was very hard for the students. Initially, when I joined the program in 2009, I had to explain how this is computer graphics, how I took their course in human factors in user interface design and grew it into a big program, right? But a lot of what we were showing were results of user research and sketches, and they were not fancy 3D visualizations and, animations and movies and stuff like that. And so I think a lot of that work had been done previously as people got used to the idea of having UX in that department, of having human-centered design. And then once the numbers of faculty grew, they just had to put up with us since we're just right now too many to get rid of.
My name's Julie Stanford, and I teach at Stanford. Yes, that's strange. And
Pretty
my
cool.
question was about the type of projects that you have students work on, and if you found some patterns around the projects that are more effective in certain spaces versus others that are less effective, because we've seen some patterns, and I'm curious if you've seen the same ones.
Okay. Well, if you're referring to, so we have two types of projects, right? So the ones in the learning studios are much more, engineered by faculty, and the ones in the experience studios are whatever clients.
Either way, both.
Whatever clients bring up. And so really, I think, and I think some of my colleagues who are teaching that can speak to you afterwards as well, but I think the most important part is how we've dealt with students dealing with problems, reflecting on their work, learning from it. And so we really welcome that kind of managed chaos. We recognize that sometimes the student experience is not necessarily a lot of fun with some clients and some projects, but that being said, they learn very much from them.
Hi, I'm Suze Lykvi from Chalmers University of Technology. I was really glad to hear about this program of yours. I saw that you have reflection as one of your activities, and I was wondering how you support that for the students.
Okay. Well, so right now we are depending a lot on Slack. And so students write some small reflections on there. They also have private blogs that at this time are only shared with their mentors and with the faculty members. And so they are given some ideas, but they're really encouraged to reflect on their experiences, on their expectations in a pretty freestyle manner using these platforms. So we usually have a Slack team for each course, and we also have a program-wide Slack that encourages community building and culture building among all the students.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Eric Balmer, Lehigh University. Thanks. This is really interesting, and it's really exciting that you were given the space of developing an entire curriculum. Not all of us have that luxury, and I'm wondering how you might be able to translate some of the insights around this studio-based approach to a department where students get, say, one course in HCI.
Well, I think the first piece of translation has to be strategic to the university administration, so you get that kind of at least moral support. And secondly, we have had some instances in our department where we weren't able to create brand new courses, but we found all sorts of creative solutions. So, for example, we put 2 courses back to back and offered them as a longer student experience of 2-3 hours on the same day. And so we sort of replicated some of these studio pedagogies by working with the existing administrative course structures with courses that were already approved. I'd be happy to talk to you more about specifics if you're interested in that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
So I'm glad that we're